Hi, I'm Kristen Zook, and this is a presentation on legal aspects of teacher evaluation. Today, what we're going to look at is the history of the evaluation process, why teacher evaluation is now a prominent topic, and why it's in the news and the media, why changes have been implemented to the process, how the new methods of evaluation have led to some court cases, what is ESSA and what are those new requirements, what do those look like, what the evidence supports now, and what the evaluation process looks like in my district, which is the Shawnee Mission School District. In the history of the evaluation process, I first wanted to look at what the evaluation process would be ideally, and that would be that it would provide feedback to the teachers and it would be able to guide their professional development to increase learning in their classroom. It would be more individualized to meet their needs since not all teachers are the same, just like not all students are the same. Traditionally, the evaluation process relied on very specific steps, and some of them still do a little bit, but very heavy on classroom observation, but then also on very strict like rubrics and checklists. There would be samples of student work, teacher records and lesson plans often were submitted, and those often followed a really specific process or plan, and then any other factors that the evaluator would deem relevant to the process. Now teacher evaluation is a pretty prominent topic because research has been done on classroom instruction, and the test data shows that high-performing teachers really do help students significantly learn more than others, and that overall 99% of teachers rank satisfactory on evaluations, when in reality that is probably not actually what's happening in classrooms, and there seems to be no distinguishing between those high quality and low performing teachers because they all rank satisfactory, which does bring to light an issue that needs to be talked about. There's also a lot more interest, philanthropic interest, I guess, in boosting teacher effectiveness. It seems to be something that everybody has an opinion about and wants to make sure that teachers are effective. There's been a lot of effort by advocacy groups and policymakers for different reasons, but to revamp state laws on evaluation. And from the political aspect, a lot of that has been towards how to dismiss the poor performing teachers. There's been some changes then with all of that interest to how evaluation should be implemented within the school districts and within the classrooms. The issue of subjectivity was brought up, that sometimes principals and evaluators bring their own opinions and their own ideas into those classrooms. So many states and districts have tried to add measures of student learning to the evaluations because that's just a collection of data, so that doesn't have subjectivity to it. And some supporters of just change in general, the Race to the Top competition, which was set up by the federal government as an intervention. They offered grants to states. Some of the things, there had to be at least 3 levels of performance, and student achievement was pretty heavy in looking at those. And then another would be the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they've spent a great deal of money on teacher quality initiatives, $700 million, and much of that was on how to improve teacher evaluation systems. However, this has led to a lot of court cases for various reasons, and not all because of the same thing. Most of them that we looked at were related to the use of standardized tests or student growth measures. Either not enough data was collected, the wrong data was collected, different things like that. Other things included lack of due process for some teachers, having tenure and pay scales linked to the evaluation, and also that some of these new evaluation systems that were put in place were overriding the local systems, and often teachers were not even aware. One specific court case right here was from Syracuse, claiming that the state did not account for poverty in the student growth formula. And this was really an interesting one for me because in my district we have a wide range of socioeconomic situations. And so it's interesting that some teachers would say that this is a very real thing that needs to be taken into account, that teachers in some schools would be able to have much higher evaluation rankings because of student growth and student test scores than in another. And so I found this really interesting that, that they brought this to court, and also that they had very little input from the public. The Every Student Succeeds Act is the new act for the United States right now, saying that states can design their own system. It just needs to be submitted to the U.S. Department of Education for approval. There must be multiple measures of educator performance, so we can't just use student test scores. It does need to include evidence of student academic achievement. It may include student growth, but they're not required to use student test scores. Some things specific to what evaluation systems should include were they need to be collaborative with teachers. They must be adequately funded, fully developed and validated. They must be piloted, and teachers must be fully trained, which these are two things that come up a lot, I think, in education as new things are coming out that teachers don't really fully understand how to use them. And they must align with the due process rights in the contract. As to if it's working, most research is saying it's too early to know for sure how well any of these new systems are working. I found it interesting that it stated that the teachers receiving the high quality feedback did tend to go on and improve student performance, and that there's no evidence that linking student test scores to the evaluation improves the instructional practice. So I think that what it's saying is that the test scores alone are not going to improve instructional practice, but if looking at student data along with other measures, the teachers can receive high quality feedback from evaluators, that is going to be the piece that's going to improve instructional practice and ultimately student performance. In my district, the way evaluation works, we just recently switched for teachers to the KEEP 2, and there are various pieces to this. I do think it is an improved process to what we had before. The beginning of the cycle, teachers do complete a self-assessment, and then they set up their own goals that they would like to see. Oftentimes they'll do that collaboratively with their evaluator. In the middle of the cycle, they can periodically upload artifacts, which are the evidence of meeting those goals from students, informal and formal observations, kind of monitoring the goal progress, discussions. So there's actually places within this kind of portfolio system where they can back and forth have kind of discussions and comments between the evaluator, and then the teacher does have a voice in that. And then towards the end of the cycle, there is an instructional practice rubric that they'll go over, and then measures of student performance and final summative ratings. If a teacher feels like he or she's being evaluated inaccurately, there are some things, some steps that can be taken, such as writing a response contesting the evaluation. And those can be done formally with the district. They can also be done within the KEEP system. They can provide artifacts as evidence to support their self-evaluation that they feel is different. If they feel it's more because of a subjective issue with their evaluator, they can request an alternate to get someone else to come in and observe and see what kinds of things are happening there. They can meet with NEA and school administrator, request a meeting, maybe discuss what they feel is happening and why. And ultimately, if it really was, they were, felt like they were maybe not renewed or whatever inaccurately, they could seek legal counsel. And thinking about myself as a school leader and what evaluation would look like, the things that I feel like over the years I've seen that really work the best is that this process must be collaborative. It needs to be really open and discussion based, asking questions about from the teachers of why they are doing what they're doing, because sometimes it's just that moment where we see what's going on and we don't always have the best answer. Also making decisions together and having opportunities for the teacher and the administrator to respond. So making sure that voices are heard from both sides. But ideally it's a team, and it has to be beneficial. It has to be, the purpose needing to be to provide feedback so that there can be growth. Needs to be positive, looking at what's going well and how can we benefit from that, how can we add on from there, not just punitive, always looking for what's not going well. And ultimately, as a leader, you've got to know the laws, make sure that you're staying compliant, things are going the way that they should, that you're knowledgeable, but also then the implementation in the classroom needs to have these other aspects.